How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of The Banker Next Door. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. Today, I wanted to talk about a subject that might be a little touchy. It's what is going on with men of prime working age not being in the workforce. I saw an article this week in CNBC, which I'm going to bring up for everybody here, and I was, just highly troubled by this article. And I think there are a number of reasons for this. We're going to touch on some things in the article. Some things are, I think, money wise. I think there are economic reasons. I think there are political reasons for this. I think the political reason is the taboo thing that a lot of people don't really want to talk about. So I will kind of put a warning that some of the things that I talk about in this episode might be deemed a little controversial, but we're gonna give a run here for it. So here's the article here, and what I want to do is I'm going to go through this CNBC article, and then I want to look at a couple of the unemployment workforce, workforce labor participation charts through the St. Louis Fed database to kind of give us a little bit more total picture of kind of what's going on here. So, but let's start off with this here. So more men in their prime working years are neither working nor looking for jobs. Here's why. And this was an article that was published on September 21st. So some of the key points here, it just says a growing number of men in their prime working years, which is ages 25 to 54, are dropping out of the workforce. About 10.5% of that group, or roughly 6.8 million men nationwide, were neither working nor looking for employment in August of 2024, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, why are those words, neither working nor looking, why are they important? Because when they show the typical, unemployment rate, and it's at like 4%, that's based on what's called the U3 statistic. None of these men, this 6.8 million men, do not get counted into that statistic. The much more accurate statistic, which we're going to see in just a minute here, is what's called the U6. That accounts for these men. You're going to see that the actual unemployment rate, if you count in people like this and then other people that get excluded, is actually over 7%, which paints a whole different picture of the economy right now. And then finally, it says in here, education is an important predictor of men's odds of being out of the labor force. So men have been steadily dropping out of the workforce, especially men ages 25 to 54 who are considered to be in their prime working years. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate for prime age working men was 3.4% in August of 2024. This number primarily includes those who are unemployed and looking for a job. Again, this goes back to the U3, what I just said, looking for a job. But about 10.5% of men in their prime working years, or roughly 6.8 million men nationwide, are neither working nor looking for employment, compared with just 2.5% in 1954. So the long-term decline in labor force participation by so-called prime age men is a tremendous worry for our society, our economy, and probably our political system, says Nicholas Eberstadt, a political economist at the American Enterprise Institute. Education is an important predictor of prime age men's odds of being out of the labor force. The big impactors are on the non-college educated groups on their ability to enter and stay in the labor market, said Jeff Stroll, a director of the Center of Education and the Workforce at Georgetown University. A study by the Pew Research Center found that men who are not college educated leave the workforce at higher rates than men who are. At the same time, fewer young men have enrolled in college over the past decade. Gee, I wonder why that is. They used to graduate with a high school education and have good, stable jobs, according to Carol Graham, senior fellow of economic studies at the Brookings Institute. Since then, due to technology-driven growth and a little bit due to Chinese competition, you've had a lot of manufacturing firms and the places where they were located that were one-horse towns become ghost lands. Okay. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called the Rust Belt. That is Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan. Did I say Ohio already? Yeah, Ohio. That's Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan. Those 5 states that are all major swing states. Yeah, because all those states are filled with what? What? These young men right here who aren't working because NAFTA and globalization sucked up all the manufacturing jobs over from between the 70s, 80s, and 90s, sucked all those jobs up and sent them out. And so we've got large swaths of places like Detroit. Detroit was once in the 50s. Detroit was this beautiful metropolis. It was just an amazing city, and now it's a dump. And you could be, so much could be said of places like St. Louis, other cities in Ohio. A lot of these places have gotten gutted. But there's a couple things. So there's a couple things. Like I said at the beginning, there's multiple factors here. Number one is globalization. Okay, gutting the manufacturing jobs. Obviously, technology has played a big role in this. Just more automation. Not needing for certain people to do certain things anymore, making certain jobs much more efficient and impactful. So you got that. But here's what I think the bigger thing is. They used to graduate, or what does it say here? At the same time, fewer young men have been enrolling in college over the past decade. Okay. And here's where some people may feel the controversial take comes in. I believe that most of the universities in this country have an invisible banner that basically says men need not apply. They want women, they want minorities. That's what they're aiming for, and that's what they've been targeting. That's what they've been going after. Men have really gotten the cold shoulder from a lot of universities, and I think that the data holds that true. You could see here, you don't have to hit somebody over the head. You hit somebody over the head with a hammer a few times. After the first couple whacks, they're pretty much going to be like, okay, I get the idea. I'm gonna move on and go do something else. Okay, but it's not all like politics or hidden agenda or stuff like that. Some of this is just economic factors. The cost of college has gotten ridiculously high. It's just the cost of college is, I believe, is too much for most people. I think a lot of people go to college today knowing that they can't afford it, but they just go because they're like, what am I going to do? I need to go to college and get a degree so that I can go out and hopefully get a decent job in the workforce. So that's one thing. So that you have kind of, a political agenda at a lot of these schools. You have economic factors, but then you have another issue too. The programs that these schools run, a lot of the programs are terrible and they suck. And you're not going to get a good job with a lot of the programs that these colleges offer right now. And that's another big thing that doesn't get talked about. And I would even venture to say that if the government loan spigot was turned off tomorrow, I would venture to say at least anywhere from a third to a half of the, and I think there's a little over 3,000 universities in the United States. I would venture that if you turn the government loan spigot off, a third to half of those 3,000 universities would be out of business overnight. They would fail and be gone overnight. And even with all that government assistance and the government loans and everything else, a lot of these schools are still struggling to stay in business because they become so bloated, because every dean needs to get paid like they're a Fortune 500 CEO. Every dean needs to get $1 million salary and bonuses and perks and everything else. And then therefore every teacher with a doctorate needs to get paid, 200 G's a year because the dean's making $1 million. So what, hey, if the dean's making $1 million, I need to make something, so all the doctorate PhDs, they all got to make 200 plus a year, plus perks and everything else. The administration's staff is just completely bloated beyond belief. And that's why a lot of these schools, they can't afford to hire anybody anymore. So all they're hiring is adjunct professors, and they pay the adjunct professors nothing. They bring the adjunct professor on and they're like, here, teach some classes and we'll pay you $2,000 a semester to go teach classes, And so the only people that take those adjunct jobs are people that either they want to get into teaching, and maybe they look at that, so that's their door into teaching. Maybe some people just love it. They just, maybe they like teaching. They have a sense, they feel like they want to give back or they want something to do, whatever. So there's a lot of things going on there. But let's take a look at some of these other charts here for a second. So this again is the U6, everybody. This is the U6. And what I want to show you here, so this is July of 2024. And here's the unemployment rate according to the U6, 7.8%. Here is the unemployment rate as of August 2024, 7.9%. But we had this huge jump from June to July. It went from 7.4 to 7.8%. 7.4 to 7.8%, a huge jump, huge spike up here. And then it's going up to 7.9. So it has gone up a 0.5% in just the last 2 months, huge leg up. And then we go back to, November of 2023, and we're at 7%, and it's basically steady on the rise, up to February, 7.3. But you could see that the unemployment rate here is much higher than people think. And it goes back to that point of, what were the jobs numbers that we got? We just got this massive revision, 800,000 jobs. It never existed, got revised down. And I got news for you. There's another revision that's going to come in January, and it's going to be another big number. So the unemployment rate is not what we think it is. So now here is interesting. So this is the unemployment rate, and this is high school graduates, no college, 25 years and over. So that's the blue line here at the bottom. This is kind of what the so basically August of 2024, we're at 4%. And this is what they were talking about back here in the article, at the beginning of the article here. Here we go. So according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate for prime-age working men was 3.4% in August of 2024. But like I said, that is a U3 number. And they even say it in here. They basically like, oh, yeah, but that's including the people that are looking for unemployment, not the people that aren't looking for unemployment. So going back here for a second. So now the red line at the top again, this is the U6, the total unemployment. So you could see that, compare, and I'm sorry, I keep kind of going over the things here, but you could see that. So, so we have here at the top, the red line, and then the blue line here at the bottom. So you could see just the huge gap between these two lines. But I don't believe for a second that the unemployment rate for high school graduates with no college degree, 25 years and over, is currently at 4%. I don't buy that. I do not buy that number for a minute. Okay, now here's an interesting one. This is labor force participation rate with no disabilities, aged 16 to 64 years old. Now this is for men. Look at this. Look at this. From July, it was at 84.1, and now it dropped down all the way to 83. This massive spike downwards here in 1 month. That is an interesting spike downwards right there. But what is I just want to show that to everybody there. Some kind of interesting numbers there on unemployment, high school educated, but no college, 25 years and older, the actual unemployment rate, the workforce labor participation rate for men. But let's get back to this article for a second. So we talked about, a couple of the reasons here. We talked about the issues with college. We talked about the issues with manufacturing and globalization. But you've got a lot of men out there. But what is happening? So you get out, you got a high school diploma, and you're out there. Maybe you want to learn a craft or you want to learn a trade. Well, what has happened in the last 3 years? Oh, that's right. We've let about 16 million people, maybe even 20 million people into this country that have come in. They're low-skill workers taking up all of the low-skill worker jobs. In other words, and a lot of them are taking the trade jobs, or they're taking the roofing jobs, the landscaping jobs. They're taking all the jobs that a lot of these U.S. citizens would normally get. And again, this is why we see in the jobs report that all the jobs for the last couple of years have been going to foreign-born, wait for it, foreign-born citizens, and American citizens have been losing jobs. And that's exactly what we see right here. Now, why does this become a big issue? Well, because men are the drivers of so many things in society. You got to have men getting with women and starting family units and building families in order to have a thriving society. Well, if we could talk all day about issues between men and women, but I'm looking at this more of an economic standpoint. So if you do not have these men are not out there working in their prime working years, that means they're not saving money, they're not building net worth, they're not starting a family. So no new families, no new family units. They're not working, so they're not paying taxes. You're not, we got this little thing called Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. So as baby boomers age out, Gen X ages out, millennials are now, early 40s. So in other words, the problem here is going to compound over time because what's going to happen is, these men in their prime working years, like I said, they're not working, so they're not paying taxes. So therefore, they're not paying into Social Security. They're not paying into Medicare. That shrinks the amount of money that goes into those programs. That shrinks the amount of money that you could pull from when people go to try to tap into that later on. Houses aren't being formed. Therefore, you don't have household formation. New kids aren't being born. That's why the birth rate is dramatically declining. And then these men at some point, here's the bigger problem. Here's a bigger problem. Why do you think it is that in a lot of countries around the world, you have, you get these revolutions and stuff like that? You get the revolutions. I'll tell you exactly why you get revolutions. You get revolutions because men, particularly prime working age men between the ages of 25 and 54, can't get jobs. They can't get jobs. They can't get education. They can't get ahead. And at some point, you know what happens? They get mad and they say, okay, we've had enough of this. And we're going after the people in charge who caused this problem. And therein is your biggest, that to me is the biggest frightening thing about this. You got 6.8 million people out there that could end up being a lot of, very upset guys out there in the world right now, I'm sure. So there's a lot of things here we got to fix. We got to get it. We got to get it fixed. We got to get it straightened out. And sorry, everybody. I need a drink there for a second. But this is, this is a very big thing to me. This is a very big thing to me. Like we have to get this straightened out. We cannot have, 6.8 million men running around out there, basically hopeless, not even looking for a job, not feeling like their life is going anywhere, that they can do anything. We've got to get a lot more people back into the trade schools. We've got to get away from this idea that everybody's got to go to college. Everybody does not need to go to college. There's a lot of people that could go to trade skills. They can learn the trades. We need them. That's the big thing. We need them. We need plumbers and carpenters and electricians and roofers. We need all these people. We need people that know how to build homes and lay foundations for homes and do all that. There's many, many, many skills out there for people that we need. We need auto mechanics. We need people to be able to work on cars. We need people to fix things. We need people that can learn all of these different skills. So, all right. We'll keep an eye on this and we'll see what happens. But like I said, this is something I'm a little passionate about. This is something that I get, this is definitely a hot button for me. It's definitely a hot button for me. We need to do better here. And the colleges need to do better. Our government needs to do better in terms of bringing manufacturing back to this country. So there you go. That's my soapbox for the day, and I'm sticking with it. All right. Well, if you like this video, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as that always helps the channel. Please remember we are on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. Please make sure to leave your comments down below, as I'm sure maybe one or two of you might have some interesting comments or interesting takes on this particular video. because I didn't say anything controversial in here. But I hope everybody check out some of the other content on the channel. Check out some of the other new episodes that I'll have posting throughout the week, and I hope to see everybody again.